Hi, welcome to From My Heart to Yours Conversations. And I am the From Project, Forever Ryan's mom. I want to show you Ryan. There he is. And let's welcome my guest today, Michelle Pepin. We're going to have a conversation with you. How about that?
Yes. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Michelle. So, Michelle, why I really wanted to talk to you was so that we can share with others about how we met, our friendship, and things that we do together. You've helped me in so many different ways in my grief journey with a lot of different things. You've been a great support, and I've learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you.
So I'm giving a little bit of myself to share you with others.
Jeez, I'm happy.
All right. So you're an angel mom. So why don't you tell us about your angel?
Okay. My angel is my son, Ian, who was 26 years old. Ian was born on August 8th, 1991. Big head, looked like an alien, but we kept him anyway. No, he has an older sister, Caitlin, but Ian, this kid could occupy himself for hours. He loved little race cars. And funny incident, one time, he was sitting in his high chair and he was spinning the wheels on his Matchbox car. And all of a sudden, I couldn't hear him anymore. So I looked and he passed out. He passed right out from the spinning wheels. It was funny. I panicked at first, but then I noticed he was okay. Right. Good sense of humor. He loved music. And Ian was a friend. If you were one of Ian's friends, whatever you told Ian in confidence stayed with Ian. He was a true friend. If he saw that you were messing up with something, he'd be the first one to tell you. Mm-hmm. Great uncle, great little brother. He liked to pull pranks on people. He liked to go into a store with me and pinch my butt and pretend he was my boyfriend and say things like, "Oh, you're just a cougar. They're jealous. Just let them be jealous." Used to embarrass the hell out of me, but I loved him.
And those are memories that make you smile.
Yes.
And I think that's so important, that to remember the joy, that the joy that they brought into our lives and the funny, humorous moments like that.
They still do. They still do. Yeah. Things happen and, I'll say, "Okay, Ian, that was real funny." He hides things on me. I can't find my keys. He used to, when he was here, he used to hide my keys on me. It was just funny little things. And it makes my day when things like that happen.
Yeah. And then to acknowledge it too.
Yes.
I think it's so important that when you feel your angel, when you feel their presence or something's done, and it's like, okay, I do it too. I'm always like, "Hey, Ryan, this morning, all of a sudden my computer mouse died." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Ryan messes with electronics when I'm trying to do something. And it takes me a minute and I'm like, "Okay, Ryan, I see you, I hear you. You got to stop it right now."
It's hard for some people to understand unless you've lost a child. You can feel them. You can feel their spirit. And some people say, "Oh, it's just in your imagination. It's because you want them there with you." No, it's not. It's real. Certain smells, certain colognes that Ian would wear, I could smell. Every once in a while, I'll go in his room and he has clothes that were up on the shelf that had to be laundered, and I haven't touched them, but I take them down and I can smell him. And it's just that comfort.
Yeah. And a lot of other moms, or a lot of other grieving parents, have said the same thing. And it's one thing, I don't get the smells. That's not my experience with Ryan. I don't have the smells, but I have so many others. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I always think before he passed, I wasn't aware. After he passed is when you become fully aware.
You're
And
absolutely
then
right.
when you open your mind and your heart to it, the signs are there.
You
And
start
nobody
seeing
can
a
tell
lot
me
more.
differently, right? Nobody can tell me differently. If it's
No.
how I feel and it makes me feel better, that's all that matters.
But the thing is, when you feel something or
Mhm.
you see something and you've got that feeling, but then somebody else next to you will see the same thing you saw, you know it's real. Like
Yeah,
clouds, sometimes I'll be saying something to Rick or somebody else, and I'll be thinking of Ian, and I'll look up and like certain little things, little hearts, or
yeah.
like the letter I, the small letter I. He never used to use the capital I in his name. It was always a small one. So that would be up there. And then I would say, oh my God. And I would say, look at that. And he'd look and say, oh my God,
Ah.
and it's cool. It is.
Sometimes I get heart clouds,
See,
really nice, fluffy heart clouds. And there's
yes,
times where I wonder, oh, I wonder how many other people have seen it. But then my next thought is, that doesn't matter. I was meant to see it.
that's right.
I was meant to see it. But I do think, wow, I wonder how many other people notice it's a heart in the clouds. But so when I'm with somebody, it's like, hey, check it out. There's a heart in the clouds. So let's go back. So you were saying Ian passed when he was 26?
Yes. Ian was in recovery for 18 months. Doing really good. Got a job working construction, was saving to buy a car,
Okay.
and got hooked up with an old acquaintance. They started dating, and she was older than Ian, and I really didn't like her. Just something about her I didn't like.
Okay.
And Ian just said how much he loved her and everything, and said, please, she means the world to me. Can you just accept her and just make her feel comfortable? That lasted a little while. And then she had lied to Ian about using drugs, and he confronted her again about it, and she lied. And he said, well, I have proof that you did. And she said, you don't have anything. And he showed her a picture that somebody took of her using drugs. And he said, I can't do this. He said, the majority of my life, I messed up using drugs, and I like my life now. So he had asked Rick and I, his dad, if she could come over and spend the night so he could end the relationship, because she had a temper problem. Didn't want to do it, didn't want to have her in my house, but he begged, okay, Ian, but as long as you bring her home, okay. The night that she came over, they had a little bit of an argument, then everything was fine. They were watching a movie in his room. The next day I got up to go watch my daughter's kids, and Rick was left behind. And he had gotten up to make a cup of coffee, and he walked by Ian's room, and the door was open a little bit, and he saw him half on the floor, half on the bed. And he ran into the room. She was dumping water on Ian and kicking him. And she was high. She couldn't even talk. Rick was screaming at her, tell me what happened, what happened? And he had a needle that was, hanging out of his arm. Rick grabbed the needle out of his arm, started doing CPR, all that stuff, called 911, then called me screaming for me to come home. I'm like, why? What's wrong? He's like, Michelle, just come home. So I was with Caitlin. She didn't get a chance to go to work yet. She drove me back home. The whole way we're like wondering what's happening. Nobody would answer Rick's phone. Nobody would answer her phone, the girl's phone. So I get back to my house. There's paramedics, there's the fire department, the police. So I start running up the stairs, and the police blocked me. And I said, I'm going to my house. That's my house. He said, you can't go in there. I said, why can't I go in there? He said, you just can't go in there. So Rick came out of the house, and
That's okay. You don't need to keep going.
so what happened was we brought him to the hospital. I was waiting in the emergency room, waiting. Finally, somebody came out and said, can I help you? I said, I'm waiting to hear on my son. He was brought in by ambulance. She said, well, what was his name? And I told her, and she said, didn't anybody tell you he died? Just as cold as that. There was another family there who lost their son in a car accident,
Man.
and everybody was there with them, comforting them. And I was sitting in there by myself waiting for Rick to come into the hospital. What happened was they got into the argument the night before while Ian was sleeping. Now, I have to say, this is hearsay because they're opening the investigation back up. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
They're opening the investigation back up because she confessed to 2 people that she got mad at Ian and gave him a hot shot. What the hot shot consisted of was fentanyl, carfentanil, acrofentanil, methamphetamine, and Xanax. She had a prescription for Xanax. Ian never took Xanax. I found out after my son's death that she had a charge in trafficking in methamphetamine. She said that she panicked after she did it and didn't know what to do. She didn't want to run in to my room because she knew that Rick was in there. She didn't want to face Rick. So with that information, in the Good Samaritan law, Rick called 911. She didn't. With the Good Samaritan law, that protected her.
Right.
Which I don't understand, even after her confessing to 2 people, and they gave written statements to the police. So with that all being said, I had anger, grief, and I wanted to kill her. And I'll say that I did. All these thoughts were running through my head. But in the midst of all that, I thought of Ian, what Ian would want me to do. Ian wasn't a violent person. He was a person who, if there was a problem, let's talk it out. We don't need to fight over this. It's stupid. He didn't like fighting, didn't like conflict. So in the midst of all that, I said, okay, we're going to take this negativity and put it in a positive way. You know, that's how I started picking up the pieces.
And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry what you went through. And it's something no parent, nobody should ever have to go through. And I know Ian guides you in your work. He does.
He does.
His face is memorable, absolutely memorable. It's like, now I have seen it enough where I know that's Ian. I know that's Ian. And I love that when we make those connections. You know, when you recognize the angel's face and then connect the sister mom with the angel, that kind of thing.
They become family.
They do become family. So how long has it been for you on your grief journey?
Since April 20th, 2018, and of all days, with the drugs and everything, National Smokeout Day. People are making jokes about it.
Of course.
And you know what? I think about it, and it's Ian's sense of humor.
Yeah.
It is. Because if he were to go out, he would go out like that. And I have to laugh. People say, oh, that's not funny. In my mind, yes, it is, because that's my connection.
And I get it, because that's something Ryan would do. So you just finished your 4th year. You finished your 4th year in your grief journey.
It doesn't get any easier. It doesn't. But
Right.
we learn to shelve things differently.
Mhm.
Adapt differently. There's good days, there's bad days.
What do you think it evolves? It's the way grief evolves. It's not linear. You know, we maybe started at point A and at point B, but the process to get there has been so skewed.
Yes.
You know, the ebbs, flows, grief waves. I remember when I first heard about grief waves, it didn't make sense to me until you realize over time in your journey, when you feel it, when you
Yes.
feel it. And now it's interesting for me, my body reacts before my brain connects it when I'm starting a grief wave. Because I used to, like the 17th every month was a trigger for me, because that's the date Ryan passed, was December 17th. And that was my trigger. Well, then I don't know when it happened, but I didn't focus on the 17th as much. But all of a sudden on the 16th, my heart's heavy. I'm ready to cry. It's just why I'm falling apart and I didn't know why. And then I'd look at the calendar. It's like, okay, you know, your body's telling you before your brain registers. And then it's just giving your body what it needs.
Our body changes so much after
Mhm.
we lose somebody. And, you know, I've had people say, there's no correlation. Yes, there is. There is. And the way your brain works, everything, your whole body changes. Your brain, you know, you might gain weight, you might lose weight, your blood pressure, it does a number on your body. There's a lot of medical issues that I have now that I didn't have before.
Okay.
And, you know, you just deal with it.
You do. I know you nailed it. It's so true. The physical transformation that takes place. I don't look or feel anything like I did 4 years ago. You know, it's taken over. It takes over. You know, it takes over. I've gained a lot of weight. I don't sleep well. It's just, there's such a thing as broken heart syndrome.
Sure is. And it's not textbook. Everybody's different. Everybody
Correct.
handles it different.
Yep.
You know, I had a lady hand me a book that said, here, read this and you'll be better. The book is still sitting on my shelf
Is it
because
got
it was
dust
written
on it?
it was written in 1957. How
Oh
is that?
my God.
No, I wasn't even born yet.
So
But
that brings up an interesting point about how non-grievers respond to us. And they think they're trying to be helpful, but many times their intent of trying to be helpful is hurtful.
it's what our parents always told us growing up. If you don't have anything nice to say, zip the lip. I've had, and I'm sure, you know,
Yeah.
well, you have Caitlin. Yes, but Caitlin isn't Ian.
Right.
They're not, they're two separate people.
Mhm.
Well, what was the other one? Oh, well, you'll be able to have more kids. Lady,
Yeah. It's like
I don't want any more kids.
replacement.
I got grandkids. I don't need any more kids.
It's just, we've lost a part of us, you know. It's huge, your child. And then to think that they're replaceable is such a bad misconception.
Yes.
Such a horrible, horrible misconception. So how we know each other, our relationship, and we've met, which has been great. We've known each other for, what do you think, like 2 years?
Yeah,
Maybe
a little
longer.
over 2 years.
A little over 2 years. We finally met at the third Ryan's Ride.
Yes.
That's the first. And when we met, instant. It was like
We've
man,
known each other.
Yep.
For years.
Yep. And I have to say, what I learned from you that day, because that day we talked and we cried. We
A
talked
lot.
and we cried over it. But hearing about, you do a lot of advocacy work, a lot of education. You taught me, because that it was okay if I'm not friends with every angel mom.
Mhm.
To give myself permission, because I kind of felt like if somebody reached out to me, I was taking a lot I didn't deserve, but I
Yes.
was taking it. And you kind of, we had just met and you taught me and showed me like, hey, I don't deserve that. you know, release that. And I did, I learned to release a situation, and you really help with that. And through that, after that, we connect a lot, where you do a lot of outreach, you handle a lot of outreach, direct interaction with substance use abusers, direct interaction with a lot in recovery, where my focus is a lot mainly on helping us in the after, the grieving parents. So when I have no clue or who to turn to, you're my go-to girl.
I'm glad to hear that.
You are. It's like, okay, if somebody needs Narcan, it's like, I don't know, but I can tell you who can help you. Michelle Pepin, or I don't know, I'll ask. You have a lot of valuable resources and a lot of education. And I know in a future conversation I want to have with you, I want to talk about that and your group and what you do and upcoming events that you do, because you are very busy.
Yes.
So let's talk about the group that you founded, Picking Up the Pieces.
Yes, that was in honor of Ian. And that's what we do when we lose somebody that we love. We pick up the pieces because our world is shattered. So it entails a lot of different things. We work with grief. We work with recovery. We work with addiction. We work with homelessness. We work with everything. When I started it, I just thought, okay, it was going to be a little group. My idea was we were going to open a sober living home for people. That was my intent. And then when I started going around in my community and seeing where help was needed, I said, well, I would still like to open up my sober living home. But for now, that's going to be on the back burner because there's people that really need us. And it went from there. Then I became a 501. Didn't intend for it to happen that way. Just thought just a little group, people can come in and out and, we can connect. But then when I noticed the amount of people I was talking to and people were calling for help, I said, okay, let's make it a 501 and make it official. And we did. And we get calls from all over. I have people from Louisiana. I have people from Maryland. I have people from Hawaii, Massachusetts, where I'm originally from. I have people from all over that have connected to my website, that have called me with their stories and have entrusted me with helping them help their child or helping a loved one get help. And that's a big thing for me, to get the trust from somebody. I take everybody in like they were my own. When I care for somebody's child, it's like it's my own child. I would want somebody to treat my child like that. There's some
You're very
parents
compassionate and empathetic. Do you find in your work heartbreak?
A lot of heartbreak. There's a lot. I could be working with somebody one week and something bad could happen in their life, and then the next week we're helping the family plan a funeral. And that's another part of what I do. I help with funeral funds for families. A lot of people don't have insurance.
Right.
And, if you get buried without insurance, it's not a good burial. If families don't have money, it's usually either a cardboard box in a local cemetery, or you get cremated and put in a little box and delivered to the family.
How do you handle all that you do emotionally? How do you handle it all? Do you have a support system?
Yes, I do. I do go to therapy. I have a lot of people that are in my community that know me, that I can turn to. There's angel moms I can turn to if I really needed help like this. But I have people that help me take this in. I've always been the one to want to solve something, and that's never going to change. That's me. And, death is hard. Losing your own child is hard. But when you're sitting at another child's funeral, holding their mother's hand because their families turn their backs on that child for whatever reason, which is ignorance, I'm that mother support system. So I'm going to be there. It's like back in the military, when somebody lost a spouse, you'd have all the wives get together to go to the funerals. Well, I try to get some moms together locally and go to the funeral of that child to know that that mom's supported.
And that's a great idea, because after the initial loss, you need support of mothers who have been through it. You
Yes.
do. You need the support of mothers who have been through it. So that's a great thing that's come out of a tragedy. It really has.
We've had a
You've
lot of
done-
mothers that
You've
have,
done.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry. We've had a lot of mothers that have taken their lives after losing their children. And I know you get affected by it. I get
Yeah.
affected by it. All of us do. That's something that we want to avoid. We want that mother to know we've been there and we're here to help them.
Right, and that is a very good point. And I know on the pages on the Facebook pages I do, I try a reminder every couple months of, hotlines or whatever we can do. Our grief is so intense, and there's so many times where I want to be with Ryan. And the thing is, I know he's at peace and I want to be with him, but I can't do it at my own hands. So it's like the word suicide, I don't like. I don't like, but to understand the grief, I absolutely understand.
It's not only physical. There's
Mhm.
other things that we suffer from with grief. We put things off to the side like house cleaning.
Yeah.
It's not like
priorities
Right.
change. And
They
I
do.
find that I don't care as much.
No.
I don't care about, I don't wear makeup to work anymore. And that used to be a big thing. I loved wearing makeup. I just don't care. I just don't care about this, or I don't care about that. And it's not that I'm lazy. I just don't care.
No, there's other things that take priority, like
Right.
telling people in your life every day that you love them.
Yes.
Even people I work with, I make sure I tell them, because sometimes
Yes.
they've never heard that from somebody.
Yeah. Right.
And it makes their day. It's giving somebody a hug. Things like that are very important to people. And when you have to worry, I would rather hug somebody than clean my house. It makes more sense to me. Not that my house is a mess. It's just priority things.
Priorities. So do you have any advice for a grieving parent who may be new on this journey?
Reach out. There's plenty of Facebook groups out there. As there's as much good as there is bad. Be careful who you share your information with. There's people out there that like to take pictures of your child, your loss, and use them for the benefit of money with things, saying that they lost a loved one when it's really your child or your loved one. There's people that just like to cause pain sometimes that's unnecessary, but there's more good groups out there than bad.
And that's true. I know in the beginning of my grief journey, I joined any and every support group I can find on Facebook.
Mhm.
And then eventually I gave myself permission to delete some. I weeded through and kept the groups that were healthy for me. And I found the groups where the mom suffered a loss of a child exactly like I did to substance use, or fentanyl poisoning, that was my connection.
Right.
That was mine, you know, and the others helped me. They helped me to get to where I needed to be. And actually each year I reevaluate groups I'm in and ask myself, is it helpful for me or is it harming me?
There's
And
some
it's
groups.
okay. It's only Facebook.
Yes.
But you're right when you said the point about, I forgot about that, to be careful.
Mhm.
Because I know in some groups, yep, there are people on there that steal your child's identity as their own
Yes.
because there's probably something mentally unstable about them where they want the support. But just so you're right, that great advice, be cautious. That was very good advice. So my next question is, what advice do you have for non-grieving friends of what not to say to a grieving mom? What's one thing that top of your head not to say?
That you know how they feel. Number one on the list, you don't know how they feel. Even if you've lost a child, you don't know how they're feeling. Everybody's pain is different.
Mhm.
Just be there to hug them, shoulder to cry on, but tell them that you're there for them. If there's
And don't
something
be
that you can do to
scared.
help. Yeah,
Right. And
don't be
don't be
afraid.
scared. And I
And
find too that if you say, I don't know what to say, that's perfect.
yes,
That's perfect. Because when you say nothing, that hurts. When you
sure
say
does.
nothing, it means my grief doesn't exist and my child never existed. But if
Exactly.
you say to me, Mary Beth, I don't know what to say, I say, perfect, perfect.
Mhm.
That warms my heart because at
Yes,
least you're saying something.
you're acknowledging it.
Yes. And we need that. We
Yes,
need that. We want our kids remembered.
we want to hear their names.
We do. We want to hear their names. We want to see their pictures. That's like our job, our mission. We're making sure. So you're saying our kids' names. If it makes me cry, it's because I'm happy. You
Exactly.
can't make me sad. That's already, that's part of my life, you know? So it's like, hey, Michelle, Ian's mom, how you doing? Kind
Yeah.
of thing, you know? So we're gonna wrap up. And thank you so much for those tips. Really great tips.
Well, thank you.
If you have any questions for Michelle or I, just post them in the comments and we'll get back to you. I will include Michelle's information in the comments so you can find out more about picking up the pieces, or an email if you want to find out more about the From Project. I'm on Facebook. It's a public page, or you can send me an email at the From Project at gmail.com. So let's end with a positive thought. What you got, Michelle?
A hug a day keeps the grief away.
I love
Hug
that.
somebody.
A
Hug somebody.
a day.
Yes. You know, I go into the grocery store and I've got my grandson doing it too. Jace is 10.
Yeah.
And he'll walk into a store and he'll walk up to somebody who he thinks isn't having a good day. He'll just put his arms out and they'll look at him and they'll say, you want a hug? And he said, yes, hug me. And they love it,
Aw.
you know, and I do that too. I make sure one stranger a day I give a hug to.
Oh, I love you.
Oh, I love you
I
too.
love you. I'm sending you a hug.
You hug too.
Okay, so my reminder to you is that you're not alone. Okay, reach out for help. Reach out to another angel mom today. Maybe you feel a connection with somebody on Facebook. Reach out, say hi, introduce yourself. You never know. And you never know if another grieving mom maybe lives down the road from you. That's another story I'll have to share with you.
Yes, and it's a good story.
Yes. So I am Forever Ryan's mom. Who's Ryan? Show Ian.
Oh.
Leanne. Those are our angels. They were definitely here today messing with us.
Yes, they were.
And from my heart to yours.
Oh, which side is it? That way. Let's see. Right here.
I
right here.
know, I gotta always think about it. I'm sending you love, hugs, support, and compassion. And that comes from my heart to yours. So thank you so much for joining us, Michelle.
Thank you.
I love you.
Love you too.
A hug a day keeps the grief away.
Yes. Bye-bye.